listening to Package Your Genius, a conversation designed to give you clarity on your calling and serve as a catalyst for your career. I'm your host, Amanda Miller Littlejohn. Welcome back to another episode of Package Your Genius, and today I am here to shake you up, to wake you up, and remind you of how powerful you inherently are. And I will say that I'm reminding you of that because I've had to get myself together a time or two in recent days. So I wanted to share a practice that I found to be really, really helpful in shifting my mindset from almost that of like victim and powerlessness to power and action. So most people understand the power of gratitude, how simply making a list of 10 things you're thankful for can take you from in a funk to on cloud 9 in less than the time it takes you to make out the list. Ask me how I know. But another side effect of gratitude, for me at least, is getting a clear picture of my own power. So I was making out a gratitude list recently and was expressing my gratitude for 2 concurrent group programs that I'm running in Package Your Genius Academy, as well as a brilliant team of experts that's there to help me support my students. And I was reflecting on how just 1 year ago, I checked out. I essentially checked out because I was burnt out. I had run 2 live cohorts for my personal branding program each year in both 2016 and 2017 while I was still managing a ton of one-on-one client work. And at the end of 2017, I was getting my kids prepped to apply for these really competitive new schools, and I was fundraising for my 10-year-old's trip to China. And so on the side of running my business, I was doing the most with extracurricular stuff for the kids. So once spring 2018 rolled around, I was spent. I just didn't have enough spiritually, energetically, mentally to give and pour into another group. I really wanted to run a new cohort for the academy, but I just couldn't. I was tapped out. And I realized that the way I was running my program could be improved so that it took less out of me. So long story short, I spent the next 12 months making some changes. So I wrote and published the book, Package Your Genius, and that really became a feeder for my programs. I finally got a membership site set up to house the content for all of my programs. I hired a business coach to help me restructure and refine my business model. I started outlining the maximum exposure program, the new PR program, which I will have to share in another podcast, is like the most amazing thing because essentially years ago, I declared I wasn't doing PR anymore, but I finally found a way to do it in a way that is fun for me and is tailored to my strengths, but also is tailored to the audience that I'm stepping up to serve with my work. So that's for another day. But anyway, so I'm thinking about all the things that happen over the last 12 months. In addition to outlining the new program, I also started identifying coaches who could support me there. So now, fast forward a year later, life is no less busy. It's still happening, right? Like people are still having issues and kids are still being kids and needing support with getting their work done and being the best that they can be. Life is still moving, but when I look back over this year, I have a book out in the world. I have 2 group programs that are running pretty seamlessly. And that is not at all what things looked like for me last year. So in my gratitude for this big shift that I've made in my personal life and in my business, I've also gained insight into my own power to change things in my life. So as I'm looking through and going through this gratitude list, I'm realizing, wow, I truly have the power to make things different if I don't like how they are. And the same is true for you. You and I, We are not broken people destined to stay broken, right? We are powerful. So just like me, you have the power to do something, to shift your energy and move toward the life you see for yourself and toward the person that you most want to be. So much of your life is scheduled and dictated by your responsibilities. Mine too, right? We often forget the degree of agency we have as people living in a modern society, in a democracy. Like, we have the choice to change our diets, change our relationships, change the information we consume at any given time. We have the power to change who we surround ourselves with, what we listen to, the information we believe or we discard. We have the power to change what we do moving forward. We can even change our habits if we want to, because we all have agency, which is defined as the capacity, condition, or state of acting or of exerting power. Now, I love reflecting on physics or bringing physics into my work. And so, Newton said it all in his first law of motion, which states that an object at rest will remain at rest until acted on by an external force. The same is true for you, right? You are a body. You are a body that is subject to the laws of physics. So what outside force will you introduce to your life? What small or big thing will you change? So again, you have agency, which is defined as the capacity, condition, or state of acting and exerting power. And when you exert your power, you create momentum, which is defined as strength or force gained by motion or by a series of events. And to talk about momentum, man, I recently wrapped up one cohort of Package Your Genius Academy, and we had a roundtable discussion where we were reflecting on the lessons learned during the academy, what changed for us, what surprised us about ourselves. And one of my students mentioned that she joined the academy because she felt stuck in her career. But what later surfaced was that she was also stuck in other areas of her life too. So she joined the academy and she dug in. She started doing assignments, pushing herself out of her comfort zone. And because she did the work, even though she wasn't always sure what the work was adding up to for her, she began to unlock her own personal power, which was incredible to watch. So while she wasn't sure the exact steps she wanted to take in her career, she liked the feeling she derived from being in motion instead of being stuck, right? So she goes from not knowing where things are going, not knowing what should she do next, to being in motion. And there's just something about the energy of motion that just spills over and infects. It's contagious, right? And it affects the other parts of your life. So she submitted herself to speak at a conference, which she'd never done before. And she killed it, by the way. Like, she dominated the stage. She launched a podcast and started sharing her ideas on her industry. And she reported back to our group that the act of moving in this one area of her life around her personal brand made the rest of her life seem too static. It was like she could see the rest of her life clearly now, where she'd felt stuck in her relationships and even on like household projects. She suddenly had this renewed energy to tackle them. But that's what happens when you realize your own agency, your own power to act, and then your agency unlocks momentum. You don't know where it's going. You may start speaking up in your personal life and unexpectedly see it spill over into your career. You may launch a new podcast and suddenly find that you have more to talk about with your kids. You might put yourself out there to pitch new clients and find yourself going out on first dates and see that it's just not that intimidating as it used to be to you. It's all connected. So I urge you first to be grateful. Obviously, if you're in a funk, try making a list of things for which you're grateful, because that act, it sounds so hokey and woo-woo and too easy to be real, but it's so true. Every time I'm in a funk and I sit down and make that gratitude list, suddenly my energy changes. So do that first. But then make a list of the things that you've made happen. Now, if you've been kind of stuck for a while and don't feel like you've really made anything happen in a while, you don't feel like you've taken your agency seriously and acted on your life by introducing new things, as simple as like taking a new route home from work, or sitting with someone new at lunch, or reaching out to someone you haven't talked to in a while, just doing something different to shake things up. And if you haven't done anything like that in a while, I want you to reflect back on a time in your life when you did feel like you were your most powerful self. And what did you make happen then? Because sometimes we just need a good reminder of who we are. It's really easy, especially once we lose our momentum, to forget. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I would love to hear from you about a small change or a big change that you plan to make so that you can create some momentum in your life. Because guess what? We can create our own momentum. We don't have to wait around for someone else. We can make changes and do things every single day. Thanks for listening so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.